A lot of us might think that HVAC is a technical job, but a lot of what makes HVAC enjoyable as an occupation, as a career, is not just the technical aspects, but it also is the people of HVAC. When I was coming up, I had a lot of people I work with, mostly were family, which includes my brothers at some point, my sister even, for a very brief period of time, and my mother was on more than several jobs helping us out. And we got along fairly well, except for its family, so there was some arguing. There was some too many cooks in the kitchen situations, which means that everybody wants to be the boss, and because everybody's so familiar with each other, and we're all family, everybody's extra comfortable voicing their opinion all the time, which, a little bit of healthy fear of the hierarchy is a good thing in a company. Family, sometimes that's absent. You can just yell at each other all day long. But as the company grew, my father's company, eventually I was partnered up with some outsiders from outside the family, and that is some of the greatest joy that I've gotten from this whole career is the people that I've met and befriended along the way. Shawn, my first, it's not an apprentice down here in the South because we don't have a whole lot of structured apprenticeship programs. There are programs, but it's not like up north where you have a more structured, regimented hourly. We have to attain a certain level before you move up. In the South, I'm gonna call a helper. Helper is so vague, that's just perfect for this. Shawn was my helper. And when I think back on Shawn, I remember a few things. He was younger than me. He was in college working part-time. One of my clearest memories of Shawn, and I guess this makes it the most important, it can't be, was him playing a game called Final Fantasy, video game. Because he was in the dorms at UNCW with my brother for a certain period of time. And I remember going there, either to pick him up or drop him off, and seeing that he had been playing this game. I don't remember which Final Fantasy it was because they go way back. I used to play them when I was younger, but the first one came out over 30 years ago. And I played that one, but not these last several. And I remember seeing the hour count. It would count how many hours you played a game. A lot of times they'll do that nowadays. And it was well over 100 hours. And I was thinking to myself, that is several days of playing video games in this one video game. It just always made an impression on me that Shawn was so focused on playing that video game. But at work, he was not nearly as focused. Now, I enjoyed having Shawn as a helper, but he was just a summer helper, and he didn't act like he was anything more, and I didn't expect much more out of him. Go get this wrench, go get this drill, that sort of thing. But I enjoyed our time together. He was a lot of fun, especially to contractors where I remember one time, I don't remember exactly what he said, but there was a general contractor there, and he said something that you typically wouldn't say, like a joke that kind of made fun of the general contractor. Not too bad, but it was still enough where you go, that took some balls. And it was kind of funny. And he was sort of invincible since he wasn't going to if he did get fired, it really wouldn't mean that much to him. And he didn't get fired, obviously, because most people are stable enough they don't fire you for making a joke about them, but you never know. I always liked that about him. He was a little bit oblivious to what he was supposed to do as far as social situations. We always used to go out to eat at the same restaurant. My wife and I, before we were married, we would meet up and Shawn would eat with us. And it was just a fun time, and it was a good time. And it's the times I remember. I don't remember the jobs we were doing. I don't remember anything else besides the good times we had. And to me, that speaks to the importance of the relationships you make in HVAC. Try to enjoy each other, try to work with each other, because sometimes the personalities will clash. No one's going to get along all the time. And if we all understand that, we can probably get through it a lot better. We want to make each other do well. And if we can enjoy our job, that's even better. And that's great. I had another helper after that, which was the best man at my wedding, which was Jason. He worked with me for several years. We had known each other for a lot longer than that, so that was easy to do. But not too long after he came to work, he actually had to get another job because he had to have health insurance coverage for his family, and it was an understandable thing. I didn't want him to go because obviously he was best man at my wedding, and I wanted him to stick around and we just work together forever. But it wasn't meant to be. The future was way different than I had envisioned it at that time. And know that. At any particular point in your life, if you're 25 or 30, you're like, I really want to be able to do this forever. You don't really know how life's going to unfold. So it's really important to be open to things that change, because that opening may be a much greater life than you actually had imagined. Jason went on to work at a tank facility. They clean tanks like tanker trucks. And I continued on in the business I would be in for a long, long time. And my next partner was named Jeff. And Jeff and I worked together for several years. I want to say until 2008 or 2009, when the housing market crashed in 2008. That's when I started Town & Country Air, because my father, we made some restructuring. It wasn't working the way we were doing it. We actually became separate entities. And because we became separate entities to make it work easier for my father, because he didn't have to pay the payroll taxes and stuff, we're sort of adapting to a new lifestyle. That gave me the opportunity, or presented the opportunity, whether I wanted it or not, to grow my own company, which ended up happening. It's just in my nature. If I start a company, or if I start something, I want to make it be successful. And I want it to be living on its own and growing on its own. It's just who I am. I like to do things well. I like to do them professionally. And so many opportunities in my life have been, I don't know, bittersweet, because I was not able to put the effort into them that they deserve. But in that instance, I embraced it. And I was able to do that, and I grew a company which I had for a decade, which was really, really awesome. But getting back to Jeff, we're before Town & Country Air. We're not going to talk about Town & Country Air. We've done that before. Jeff was younger than me as well. He was probably, 4 or 5 years younger than me at least. I don't remember exactly. He came to work with me, and we had a great time. We were working together. He was smart. He was mechanically inclined. He came from a family of mechanics. I believe his brother is still like a diesel mechanic or commercial fleet mechanic, not necessarily diesel, but just fleet trucks and large equipment. I've actually gone over to his place where he works and repaired a Carrier, I think it was Transicold bus system. That was an adventure. I didn't look too good that day. I was kind of feeling my way through things, and it was, looking back on it, I was not prepared to work on that system, which is another thing we can get into at a different time. Don't bite off more than you can chew, but we won't talk about that this time. So Jeff worked with me for a few years until that time when the economy tanked. We had a great time together. In fact, when my twins were born in 2006, they were born premature. So they were in the NICU at the hospital, which is neonatal intensive care unit, and then went to the PICU, which is like the next step up before they get to come home. My son and daughter were in there basically, I think it was about 5.5 or 6 weeks, because they were born at 28 weeks, which is premature. Usually you want to get to at least 35. I think 35 is a number when you could probably go home in a reasonable period of time. Most people go closer to 40 weeks. But it was a scary situation. But what made an impression on me, he's one of the few people that came to the NICU to visit my twins when they were born. Most of the people were too afraid to even go in there because of just the suspense and tension in the air, because there's so many young lives that are teetering between life and death, unfortunately, and just so much, just so serious. And it's hard to be in that room. I remember vividly holding my daughter when she was born. She was 2 pounds and 15 ounces, and she ran the course of my hand, and that was about it. And it was surreal, and I think you enter a state of sort of surreal override, because looking back on it, I was like, how did we go through that so smoothly, relatively speaking? My son had actually had what's called a pneumothorax, where his lungs weren't fully developed, because I believe it's called surfactant, maybe. It's a material in the lungs that gives them elasticity so you can breathe. But at 28 weeks, it's not there, so it's difficult to breathe. And I remember getting a call at 4 a.m. that one of his lungs was collapsed. It's just that sort of thing. It's that sort of place. And he was willing to go in there and not only just kind of drop by, but, go in there and hang out and talk for a while. And I will never forget that. Now, the hard part of the story is that Jeff actually passed away. He fell down and hit his neck and broke his neck. But that's a tough part of the story, actually. I was not prepared for that. But treasure those instances and treasure those times together and make sure to invest in those people. Don't give up on them. Don't turn on them. Try to do your best to work and create a positive atmosphere, because as much as we like to think it depends on other people's actions, it also depends on our actions. So do your part, and you might improve something to a degree which you don't anticipate. So that is my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, got something out of it. I'll see you on the next one, and God bless all of you.
Save 8% off your order at TruTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code.